The transport ship touched down on the alien planet with a soft thud. Captain Eleanor Rodriguez stepped out into the strange purple sky, her metal legs clicking against the ramp. She had lost her real legs in a battle 3 years ago, but these new ones worked just fine. Maybe even better than the old ones. This was the biggest day of her life. She was part of the first human team ever to visit this world. The aliens here called their planet Zephyria Prime for years. Humans and these aliens had been fighting. Now, finally, they wanted to make peace. Elena looked around at the crystal buildings that sparkled like diamonds in the alien sun. Everything here was so different from Earth. The trees were silver, the grass was blue, and the air smelled like flowers she had never seen before. Her team walked slowly toward the giant palace in the distance. Elena felt nervous. She had fought in many battles, but this felt scarier somehow. Fighting was something she understood. Making peace? That was much harder. The aliens they were going to meet were called the Ethereal. They looked almost like humans, but their skin was see-through and glowed with soft light. Elena had seen pictures, but she wondered what they would look like in real life. As they got closer to the palace, Elena saw a group of aliens waiting. For them, they wore long, flowing clothes that seemed to move on their own. In the center of the group sat someone in a floating chair. This had to be the princess they had heard about. Princess Zara had been chosen to speak for her people. Elena knew a little about her story. The princess had been hurt in the same war that took Elena's legs. She couldn't walk anymore, just like Elena couldn't before she got her metal legs. Maybe that's why their governments thought they would understand each other. The floating chair moved forward as the human team approached. Elena could see the princess more clearly now. She was beautiful in a way that was both alien and familiar. Her skin glowed with a soft blue light, and patterns of brighter light moved across her face like slow lightning. But there was something else, something that made Elena's heart skip a beat. The princess's face. It looked like someone Elena knew, someone she had lost long ago. Elena's commander signaled for the team to stop. This was the moment for the formal greeting. Elena stepped forward and began to remove her helmet, as was the custom. The princess watched her with large, dark eyes. The helmet came off, and Elena's long black hair fell round her shoulders. She had the same green eyes that had been in her family for generations. The same strong jaw that her mother always said made her look stubborn. The moment the princess saw Elena's face, something strange happened. The light patterns on the princess's skin flickered and went dim. Her mouth opened slightly, but no sound came out. The floating chair wobbled as if the princess had lost control of it. The other aliens round the princess looked worried. They whispered to each other in their musical language. Elena couldn't understand the words, but she could tell something was very wrong. Elena felt confused. Had she done something to offend the princess? She knew that different species had different customs. Maybe showing her face was considered rude. The princess just stared at Elena with wide eyes. Her hands gripped the sides of her chair so tightly that her knuckles went white. Well, as white as alien knuckles could go. The glowing patterns on her skin continued to flicker like a broken light. One of the alien advisors stepped forward and whispered something to the princess, but Princess Zara didn't seem to hear him. She was completely focused on Elena, as if she was seeing a ghost. Elena tried to smile politely. She had trained for months for this moment. She knew exactly what words to say, what gestures to make. But now, faced with the princess's strange reaction, her mind went blank. The silence stretched on. Elena's team members shifted uncomfortably behind her. The alien delegation whispered more urgently among themselves. This was supposed to be a moment of celebration, the first step toward peace between their worlds. Instead, it felt like something had gone terribly wrong. Finally, the princess seemed to shake herself back to awareness. The light patterns on her skin steadied, though they remained dimmer than before. She cleared her throat, a sound that was surprisingly human-like. "Welcome to Zephyria Prime," the princess said in careful English. Her voice was soft and musical, but Elena could hear the strain in it. "We are honored by your visit." The words were right, but something in the princess's tone suggested she was anything but honored. She sounded shocked, confused, maybe even. Frightened, Elena bowed slightly, as she had been taught. "Thank you, Your Highness. We come in peace, hoping to build a better future for both our peoples." The princess nodded, but her eyes never left Elena's face. It was as if she was trying to solve a puzzle or remember something important. The other aliens continued to watch nervously. As the formal greetings continued, Elena couldn't shake the feeling that this was about more than just first contact between two species. The way the princess looked at her, the shock in those alien eyes, it reminded Elena of the day she had learned about her brother Danny. Danny had disappeared during a deep space mission. 5 years ago, his ship had been found damaged and empty. Near alien territory, everyone assumed he was dead, but his body was never found. Elena had never stopped wondering what really happened to him. Now, standing in front of this alien princess who seemed to recognize her, Elena felt that old wondering come back stronger than ever. The princess's reaction wasn't just surprise at meeting a human. It was something much more personal. The formal ceremony continued around them, but Elena barely heard the words. She was too busy studying the princess's face, trying to understand why this alien seemed to know her, and why, despite being on a completely different world, surrounded by beings unlike any she had ever seen, Elena felt like she was about to discover something that would change everything she thought she knew about her family, her brother, and herself. The purple sun began to set over the crystal palace, casting strange shadows across the gathering. Elena realized that this mission was going to be far more complicated than anyone had expected. Peace between their worlds might depend on solving a mystery that was much more personal than she could have ever imagined. The next 3 days were the most awkward of Elena's life. Every time she entered a room where Princess Zara was present, the alien royal would stiffen and look away. During official meetings, the princess would stare at Elena when she thought no one was watching, then quickly turn her attention elsewhere when their eyes met. Elena couldn't concentrate on the peace talks. Her mind kept wandering to that first moment when the princess saw her face. The shock in those alien eyes had been so raw, so personal. It wasn't the reaction of someone meeting a stranger from another world. It was the reaction of someone seeing a ghost. On the 4th night, Elena couldn't sleep. The guest quarters in the Crystal Palace were beautiful but strange. The walls glowed softly with their own light, and she could hear alien music drifting through the corridors. She decided to explore. The palace library was enormous, filled with floating books made of some kind of crystal material. Elena touched one and was amazed when words appeared in the air, translating themselves into English as she read. She started looking up information about human-alien contact, hoping to understand what was happening. What she found made her blood run cold. There were records of humans being captured. During space missions over the past 20 years, most were held as prisoners, but some were given false identities and new lives. The records spoke of hybrids, people who were part human and part ethereal. They were rare and often hidden from society because many aliens feared them. Elena's hands shook as she read more. One record mentioned a human soldier who had been captured 15 years ago. Near the Outer Rim, he had been badly injured and was thought to be dying. An ethereal family had saved his life, but the medical treatment had changed him. His DNA had been mixed with ethereal genetics to help him survive. The soldier had been given a new name, a new identity. He had chosen to stay with the aliens rather than return to Earth. The record said he later became a military commander and married into alien nobility. Elena felt sick. The timeline matched perfectly with Danny's disappearance. Her brother had vanished 15 years ago during a mission to the Outer Rim. His ship had been found damaged and empty. Everyone assumed he was dead. But what if he wasn't? What if he had been captured, changed, and given a new life? Elena kept reading. The hybrid soldier had died 3 years ago in a bombing. He had been protecting a refugee camp when terrorists attacked. His wife, a princess of the royal family, had been injured in the same attack and could no longer walk. Princess Zara. Elena sat back in the floating chair, her mind racing. If this was true, if Danny had somehow become this hybrid soldier, then Princess Zera wasn't just any alien royal. She was Elena's sister-in-law. The shock on her face when she saw Elena suddenly made perfect sense. But Elena needed to be sure. She spent the rest of the night searching through more records, looking for any mention of the hybrid soldier's original human identity. The files were heavily encrypted, but Elena's military training had taught her a few things about breaking codes. Finally, as the alien sun began to rise, she found what she was looking for. Buried deep in a classified file was a single line, original human designation. Lieutenant Daniel Rodriguez, Earth Military, serial number 7749 Alpha. Danny, her brother Danny. Elena felt tears running down her face. For 15 years, she had wondered what happened to him. She had imagined him dying alone in space, his body floating among the stars. She had never imagined that he might have found love, purpose, and a new family among the aliens. And she had never imagined that he might have died a hero, protecting innocent people from those who wanted to continue the war between their species. A soft sound made Elena look up. Princess Zera was standing in the doorway, her floating chair silent on the crystal floor. The princess's skin was glowing brighter than usual, and Elena could see that she had been crying too. You found the records, the princess said quietly. It wasn't a question. Elena nodded, not trusting herself to speak. Princess Zera moved closer, her chair gliding across the floor. I recognized you the moment I saw your face. You have his eyes, his jaw, the same stubborn expression he used to get when he was thinking hard about something. His name was Danny, Elena whispered. Lieutenant Daniel Rodriguez. He was my big brother. The princess closed her eyes, and more tears leaked out. Here, he was called Commander Kai. He told me he had a sister on Earth, a little girl who wanted to be a soldier just like him. He said she was brave and strong and would never give up on anything she believed in. Elena laughed through her tears. He always said I was too stubborn for my own good. He loved you very much, Princess Zera said. He talked about you often, especially near the end. He wanted to contact you, to let you know he was alive. But it was too dangerous. There were people on both sides who would have used his identity to start another war. The two women sat in silence for a while, each lost in memories of the man they had both loved. Elena thought about her brother as a child, always dreaming of exploring the stars. Princess Zera remembered her husband's gentle hands and his passion for peace between their peoples. He died trying to protect children, the princess said finally. Human children, ethereal children, hybrid children. He didn't see differences. He just saw innocents who needed protection. Elena felt a surge of pride. That sounded exactly like the brother she remembered. The people who killed him, Elena said, are they still out there? Princess Zera's skin flickered with angry light. Some of them, they call themselves patriots. But they're just criminals who profit from war. They've been trying to sabotage these peace talks too. Elena stood up, her metal legs clicking against the crystal floor. Then we need to stop them. Both of us, together. The princess looked up at her with surprise. You would do that? Work with me, even though I'm an alien? Elena smiled, and for the first time since arriving on this world, it felt genuine. You're not just an alien. You're family, and family sticks together. Princess Zera smiled back, and the light patterns on her skin began to glow with warmth instead of sadness. Kai would be proud of both of us. As the alien sun rose higher, casting rainbow colors through the crystal windows, Elena realized that her mission had changed completely. She had come here to make peace between two worlds. Now she understood that the real battle was against those who wanted to keep the war going forever. And she wouldn't be fighting alone. Over the next week, the peace talks began falling apart. Every day brought new problems. Human delegates accused the aliens of hiding important information. Alien representatives claimed the humans were making impossible demands. The media from both worlds started talking about the meetings as a complete failure. But while the official talks crumbled, something beautiful was happening between Elena and Princess Zera. They had started meeting secretly in the palace gardens, sharing stories about Danny and trying to piece together the mystery of who was sabotaging the peace process. Tell me about when he was little, Princess Zara asked one evening. They sat by a fountain that played music as the water danced through the air. The alien sunset painted everything in shades of gold and purple. Elena smiled, remembering Danny was always building things, spaceships out of cardboard boxes, rocket launchers out of old pipes. Our parents thought he was crazy, spending all his time dreaming about the stars. But I knew he would make it up there someday. Princess Zara's skin glowed softly in the dim light. When I first met him, he was building something too, a communication device that could translate between our languages instantly. He said he wanted to help our peoples understand each other better. That sounds like him. Elena said he never liked it when people couldn't talk to each other. Even as a kid, he was always trying to help neighbors who were fighting makeup. The princess touched a small device on her wrist, and suddenly the air filled with a holographic image. It showed a tall man with Elena's green eyes and dark hair, but his skin had the same translucent quality as the aliens. He was smiling and holding a small alien child. This was taken 2 years before he died. Princess Zara said quietly, he was teaching refugee children how to read, both human and ethereal. Children learned together in his classes. Elena felt tears in her eyes. He looks happy. He was, despite everything he had lost. Despite being so far from home, he found joy in helping others. He used to say that family wasn't just about blood. It was about the people you chose to protect. And love. They sat in comfortable silence for a while, watching the musical fountain and thinking about the man they had both loved. Elena had spent 15 years wondering if her brother had suffered when he disappeared. Now she knew that despite everything, he had found love and purpose among the stars. There's something else I need to show you, Princess Zara said. She guided her floating chair toward a small building at the edge of the garden. Kai built this before he died. I think you should see it. Inside the building was a workshop filled with strange devices and half-finished inventions. But what caught Elena's attention was a wall covered with pictures and documents, photos of Earth, star charts, and in the center, a picture of Elena in her military uniform. He never stopped thinking about you, the princess said. He was so proud when he heard you had joined the military. He said his little sister was going to be the best soldier in the galaxy. Elena walked closer to the wall. There were newspaper clippings about her missions, somehow obtained across the vast distance between worlds, a medal she had won for bravery, even a copy of a letter she had written to their parents, talking about wanting to explore space just like Danny had. How did he get all this? Elena asked. He had friends in the human diplomatic corps, people who believed in peace between our worlds. They would secretly send him information about Earth, about you. It helped him feel less alone. Elena noticed something else on the wall, a detailed map showing locations of attacks on both human and alien settlements. Over the past 5 years, red pins marked each incident, and lines connected them in a complex pattern. What's this? She asked. Princess Zara's expression grew serious. Kai's last investigation. He discovered that the attacks on both sides weren't random. Someone was deliberately targeting mixed communities, places where humans and aliens lived together peacefully. Elena studied the map more carefully. The pattern was clear once you knew what to look for. Every attack had hit places where the two species were learning to coexist: refugee camps, trading posts, research stations where scientists from both worlds worked together. He was close to figuring out who was behind it all. The princess continued. That's why they killed him. The bombing that took his life wasn't random terrorism. It was an assassination. Elena felt anger building in her chest. Who wanted him dead? We don't know yet, but we know they're still active. 3 more mixed settlements have been attacked since the peace talks began. Someone doesn't want our worlds to stop fighting. Elena walked around the workshop, looking at her brother's notes and inventions. Everything here showed a man dedicated to building bridges between species, to finding ways for different peoples to understand each other. He had died trying to protect that dream. The peace talks, Elena said suddenly. The problems we've been having, the misunderstandings, the accusations. What if they're not natural disagreements? Princess Zara's eyes widened. You think someone is sabotaging the meetings from the inside. Look at this pattern, Elena said, pointing to the map. Every attack happened right before or after a major diplomatic meeting. Someone has been using violence to make sure peace talks always fail. They spent the next hour going through Danny's research together. The more they found, the clearer the picture became. There was a group of people from both species who profited from the ongoing war. Arms dealers, military contractors, politicians, who gained power by stirring up fear and hatred. Danny had been close to exposing them when he died. Now, 3 years later, they were working to destroy these new peace talks too. We have to finish what he started, Elena said. Princess Zara nodded. But we can't trust anyone in the official delegations. If there are saboteurs among them, showing our hand too early could get us both killed. Elena looked at her brother's picture one more time. He had found a new family among the aliens. But he had never forgotten his old one. He had worked for peace not just because it was right, but because he wanted a universe where his sister could visit alien worlds without fear, where children of all species could play together safely. Then we do this quietly, Elena said. Just the two of us, following Danny's investigation. We find out who killed him and stop them from destroying the peace he died trying to create. Princess Zara's skin glowed with determination. Kai always said the best way to honor the dead was to finish their work. As they left the workshop together, Elena felt something she hadn't experienced since her brother's disappearance: purpose. For 15 years, she had been a good soldier, fighting battles other people told her to fight. Now, finally, she was fighting for something that mattered personally. She was fighting for Danny's dream. She was fighting for the future he had wanted to build. And she wasn't fighting alone. The war profiteers had made one big mistake. They had killed a man who was loved by people on both sides of the conflict. Now his sister and his wife were working together, and they wouldn't stop until justice was done and peace was finally achieved. The real battle was just beginning. Elena and Princess Zara spent the next 2 weeks carefully investigating the conspiracy that had killed Danny. They worked mostly at night, using the princess's access to government files and Elena's military training to piece together the puzzle. What they found was worse than either of them had imagined. The war profiteers weren't just random criminals. They had people working inside both governments, feeding them information and sabotaging peace efforts from within. Some were high-ranking military officers who got promoted every time the fighting got worse. Others were politicians who won elections by promising to be tough on the enemy. Look at this, Elena whispered one night as they worked in Danny's secret workshop. She had connected her military tablet to the alien computer system, something that should have been impossible but somehow worked. Admiral Chen from our delegation has been buying weapons from ethereal arms dealers for the past 5 years. Princess Zara studied the financial records Elena had uncovered. And Minister Vex from our side has been selling military secrets to human corporations. They're all working together while pretending to hate each other in public. Elena felt sick. These people were supposed to be negotiating peace, but instead they were planning to make the war even worse. Every day they delayed the peace treaty, more soldiers like her would lose their legs, arms, or lives. More families would lose brothers and sisters like Danny. We need to expose them, Elena said. If we can get this information to the media, to the honest people in both governments, it won't be that easy, Princess Zara said sadly. These people have too much power. They'll just claim the evidence is fake, that we're the real conspirators trying to trick everyone. Elena knew the princess was right. In a world where people already distrusted aliens, who would believe that human and alien criminals were working together? The conspiracy was almost perfect because it hid behind the very hatred it was designed to create. Then we need more proof, Elena said, something they can't deny or explain away. Their chance came 3 days later. Elena was walking through the palace corridors when she overheard Admiral Chen talking on his communication device. He was speaking quietly, but Elena's military training had taught her how to move silently and listen carefully. The ceremony tomorrow will be perfect, Chen was saying. Both the human captain and the alien princess will be on the main platform. One bomb in the right place will kill them both and destroy any chance of peace for another decade. Elena's blood turned to ice. They were planning to kill her and Princess Zera at tomorrow's public ceremony, where both of them were supposed to give speeches about cooperation between their species. Elena quickly found Princess Zera and told her what she had heard. The princess's skin went pale, her light patterns flickering with fear and anger. "We have to stop the ceremony," the princess said. "If we do that, they'll just try again later." Elena replied, "And they'll be more careful next time. This might be our only chance to catch them in the act. You want to use ourselves as bait?" Princess Zera asked. Elena nodded grimly. "My prosthetic legs have built-in recording devices and communication systems. If we can get them to reveal their plans on camera, with audio, no one will be able to deny the evidence. It was incredibly dangerous. If something went wrong, they would both die, just like Danny had." But Elena thought about her brother's workshop, filled with inventions designed to bring people together. He had risked everything for peace. She could do no less. The next morning, Elena and Princess Zera prepared for what might be their last day. Alive, Elena made sure her recording equipment was working perfectly. Princess Zera programmed her floating chair with an emergency escape route, just in case. The ceremony was being held in the main plaza of the capital city. Thousands of humans and aliens had gathered to hear the speeches. News crews from dozens of worlds were broadcasting the event live across the galaxy. Elena stood on the platform, looking out at the crowd. Somewhere among all those faces were people who wanted her dead. But there were also families who had lost children in the war, soldiers who were tired of fighting, ordinary people who just wanted a chance to live in peace. As Princess Zera began her speech about cooperation and understanding, Elena spotted Admiral Chen near the edge of the platform. He was holding a small device and watching the crowd carefully. Elena activated her recording system and moved closer to him, waiting for the signal. She heard him whisper into his communication device, "The bomb is in position. Both targets are exactly where we need them." Elena's heart was pounding, but she forced herself to stay calm. She needed more evidence, something that would clearly identify all the conspirators. "Remember," Chen continued, "after the explosion, we blame it on radical aliens who don't want peace. The humans will demand revenge, and we'll be back to full-scale war within a month." Perfect. Elena had recorded everything. Now she just needed to get away from the bomb before it went off. But as she started to move, Chen noticed her. His eyes went wide when he realized she had been listening. For a moment, they stared at each other across the platform. Then Chen reached for his weapon. "Princess!" Elena shouted, diving towards Zera's floating chair. "It's happening now." Chaos erupted on the platform. Chen fired his weapon, but Elena's military reflexes saved her. She rolled behind the princess's chair as the energy blast sizzled past her head. Security guards from both species rushed toward the platform, but they didn't know who to trust or who to protect. Princess Zera quickly activated her chair's emergency systems. A protective shield appeared around both of them just as Chen fired. Again, the blast bounced harmlessly off the energy barrier. "The bomb!" Elena yelled over the noise. "Where's the bomb?" Chen was backing away, speaking frantically into his communication device. "Detonate now. Forget the timing. Just blow it up." Elena's recording equipment was still running, capturing everything. But that wouldn't matter if they were all dead. In the next few seconds, then Princess Zera did something amazing. Her floating chair rose into the air, carrying both of them above the panicking crowd. Elena could see everything from up there, the security forces trying to restore order, the news crews still filming, and Admiral Chen running toward the edge of the plaza. There, Princess Zera pointed toward a suspicious package near the base of the platform. "I can see the bomb." Elena used her military training to estimate the blast radius. If it went off now, it would kill hundreds of innocent people in the crowd below. She couldn't let that happen. "Can your chair carry us down there?" Elena asked. "It's too dangerous," the princess replied, "if we're that close when it explodes. Then we better make sure it doesn't explode," Elena said grimly. As they descended toward the bomb, Elena could hear Chen screaming into his device. "Why isn't it working? Detonate the device now." A voice crackled back through the communication system, loud enough for Elena's recording equipment to pick up clearly. "The remote isn't responding, Admiral. Someone must have interfered with the signal." Elena smiled grimly. Her brother Danny had taught her a few things about electronics during their childhood. She had used her prosthetic legs jamming systems to block the bomb's remote detonator. They landed next to the device just as security forces surrounded Admiral Chen. Elena's recordings had been broadcasting live through the palace's communication system. Everyone in the plaza and everyone watching across the galaxy had heard Chen's confession. There was no way to deny it now. The conspiracy was exposed, the bomb was disabled, and the real enemies of peace were finally revealed as Elena and Princess Zara stood together beside the defused bomb. They could hear the crowd beginning to cheer. For the first time in decades, humans and aliens were cheering together, celebrating their shared victory over those who would keep them apart. The war profiteers had made their final mistake. They had tried to kill the sister and wife of a man who had died protecting peace. Now that peace had a real chance to survive. 3 months after the failed bombing, Elena stood in a courtroom watching Admiral Chen receive his sentence. Life in prison without the possibility of release around the galaxy. Similar trials were happening as the conspiracy unraveled completely. Politicians, military officers, and business leaders from both species were finally facing justice for the crimes they had committed in the name of profit. The recordings Elena had made during the ceremony had changed everything. When people across both worlds heard their own leaders planning to kill innocent civilians just to keep a war going, the public outrage was massive. Protests filled the streets of human cities and alien worlds alike, demanding real peace negotiations. Elena had expected to face punishment for her unauthorized investigation. Military rules were strict about soldiers acting without orders, but instead of a court-martial, she found herself receiving commendations from the highest levels of government. The evidence she and Princess Zara had gathered had prevented not just their own deaths, but potentially millions more casualties if the war had continued. Captain Rodriguez, her commanding officer, had said during the medal ceremony, "Your actions have brought honor to the entire human military. You've shown that sometimes the greatest service to your people means working with former enemies to fight the real threats to peace." But the medal felt less important to Elena than the letter she received from Princess Zara the same day. The princess had been busy too, working with honest leaders from both governments to create new institutions that would prevent another conspiracy like this from forming. "I'm starting a foundation." The letter said, "It will be called the Kai Foundation, named after your brother. We want to support mixed communities where humans and aliens live together, and help disabled veterans from both species find new purpose in building peace. Instead of fighting wars, would you consider joining me as co-director?" Elena didn't hesitate. She submitted her resignation from active military service that same day. The Kai Foundation grew quickly. Elena discovered she had a talent for organization and diplomacy that she had never known about. During her years as a soldier, Princess Zara's political connections and Elena's practical experience made them an effective team. Within 6 months, they had established refugee centers on 12 different worlds, all places where humans and aliens could live together safely. The work was challenging. There were still plenty of people on both sides who didn't trust the other species. Some human veterans couldn't understand why Elena was working with aliens. Some ethereal nobles thought Princess Zara was betraying her own people by helping humans. But Elena had learned something important from her brother's story. Family wasn't just about sharing the same blood or even the same planet. It was about choosing to protect and care for each other, no matter how different you might seem. On the outside, 1 year after the bombing attempt, Elena and Princess Zara traveled together to the memorial site where Danny was buried. It was a small garden on an asteroid between human and alien space, a place that belonged to both species and neither. Danny's grave marker was simple, just a stone with his human name on one side and his alien name on the other. "I used to come Here alone, Princess Zara said as they floated in the zero-gravity garden. I would talk to him about my work, ask him what he would have done in difficult situations. But I always felt like I was missing half the conversation. Elena smiled, touching the memorial stone gently. He would be proud of what we've built together. All those refugee centers, the medical programs for disabled veterans, the schools where human and alien children learn side by side. This is exactly what he dreamed of. Do you think he knew? The princess asked. When he died, do you think he knew that someday his sister and his wife would meet and finish his work? Elena thought about it carefully. Danny always believed that love was stronger than hate, that family connections could survive anything. Maybe he didn't know exactly how it would happen, but I think he trusted that somehow the people who loved him would find each other. They spent the afternoon sharing more stories about Danny, but this time the memories were filled with joy instead of sadness. Elena told Princess Zara about their childhood adventures, building rocket ships in their backyard and dreaming of exploring the stars together. The princess shared funny stories about Danny's attempts to cook alien food and his terrible singing, voice that somehow made everyone feel better anyway. As they prepared to leave the memorial garden, Elena realized something important had changed. For the first time since Danny's disappearance 15 years ago, she felt completely at peace with his memory. He wasn't just her lost brother anymore. He was the bridge that had connected her to a new family, a new purpose, and a new understanding of what it meant to be human in a galaxy full of different species. 6 months later, Elena stood on a platform very similar to the one where someone had tried to kill her. But this time, instead of facing assassins and bombs, she was watching the signing of the Galactic Peace Accord. Representatives from dozens of species put their names on the document. That would end the war between humans and aliens forever. Princess Zara was there too, no longer just representing her own people, but serving as the first director of the new Interspecies Cooperation Council. Her floating chair had been decorated with symbols from every world that had signed the peace treaty. Ladies and gentlemen, the ceremony announcer said, we are honored to have Captain Elena Rodriguez and Princess Zara speak about the personal cost of war and the importance of this historic peace. Elena approached the microphone, looking out at the crowd of humans, aliens, and hybrids who had gathered to witness this moment. She thought about Danny, about all the soldiers who had died fighting wars that should never have happened, about the families torn apart by hatred and fear. My brother died believing that different species could live together in peace, she said. He never got to see this day, but his dream lives on in every mixed community we've built. Every friendship formed across species lines, every child who grows up thinking that having alien neighbors is perfectly normal. The crowd erupted in cheers that seemed to go on forever. Elena looked over at Princess Zara, who was glowing so brightly with happiness that she lit up the entire platform. Later that evening, at the celebration party, Elena found herself talking to a young human-alien hybrid who was studying to become a doctor. The girl wanted to work in the refugee centers, helping injured veterans from both species. My parents met during the war, the girl explained. They were enemies who fell in love and had to hide their relationship for years. They said people like you and Princess Zara made it possible for families like mine to exist openly. Elena felt tears in her eyes, but they were good tears this time. Danny had been right. Love really was stronger than hate. Family really could survive anything. And sometimes, the people you thought you had lost forever could find new ways to bring joy into your life. As the celebration continued around her, Elena looked up at the stars through the transparent ceiling of the space station. Somewhere out there, on worlds she had never seen, human and alien children were growing up together, learning each other's languages, sharing each other's dreams. Danny's dream had finally come true. The galaxy was at peace, and it would stay that way because people from different worlds had chosen to see each other as family instead of enemies. The war was over. The real life could finally begin.